Last week we stripped the car and we found a donor jag for the orange whale suspension. We also visited the Las Vegas Strip and met some interesting characters at the International Automotive Show.
If you guys just look at what we do over here, you can get a lot of great ideas, especially here like from the SEMA show. It is so many wonderful things and new products that could help you build your cars to where you're trying to go.
Hi, my name is Catherine and I come from Quebec City, Canada. And SEMA show is very good.
You're missing a really good show. There's so much to see over here. It's just awesome.
Was piece of scrap, my engine was dead. Crushed in pieces is what they said. Now the blue came Riaan and Pat. Let's haul her home, let's bring her back. It's Chevy. Ooh, you love a headache. Driving a Ford, it'll strike that chord. Street Rods Africa, here I come.
Hot Rod Magazine, Volume 1, Number 1, January 1948. That was just before I was born. Now, everything's got to start somewhere. And even in the Egyptian time, when they were building pyramids, you know, that wasn't the easy job to do, and everything was bumping, everything was unsafe. And they decided they've got to do something to make it safer. And they actually started with a suspension, making springs out of wood, just to have that suspension when they've got to roll all those blocks to the pyramids. And that's what we are going to do today. We're going to work on the suspension of this Chevy. Because if you don't have a suspension, you're going to have a very bumpy drive. And you know, in the previous episodes, we got a Jaguar, we took everything out, and Etienne has rebuilt the whole suspension. The back one is fitted, and all we've got to do today is to fit the front suspension, because we've got to get this Chevy ready for sandblasting.
Away with paint, body filler and rust. We also meet the Deuce before Johnston, Stuart Johnston, gets behind the wheel of the spirited Lotus Espirit. He might not be the king of bling, but motoring madness remains his thing. And here at SEMA, Riaan is definitely becoming a force to be reckoned with.
As they say, in Vegas, everything is bigger and better. The SEMA show is big, and big things happen, also for me. I'm going to go on the Car Crazy Central show, which is the longest running car show on Speed Channel. And I'm going to meet Barry Meguiar, who's going to find out what we do in South Africa. I can't wait to get onto that stage.
Barry Meguiar, CEO of Meguiar's Polishing Products and the host of Car Crazy, quickly became a die-hard Street Rods Africa fan.
This is West Coast Customs, and you know they are everywhere in America and they're one of the best car rebuilders. And here you can see what they can do. A car can start like this and it can end up like that. So if you've got an old one in the garden or lying in the shed, start working on it, because you can be the proud owner of a car like that.
Let's meet the self-made rust to riches millionaire that fuel petrol passion from the West to the world.
I'm Ryan Friedlinghaus, CEO of the world famous West Coast Customs. We're here at SEMA 2009. Definitely a cool thing that we do here, the West Coast Customs experience, where people get to work hands-on with all my guys, and it's going really, really well. I started with $5,000 and basically a dream that wanted to build the best shop in the world, and it's been a long struggle. It's been about 15 years, but we finally have gotten to a section, I think, where we're kind of starting to take over the world. We have franchises all over the world. We have a really good TV show on TLC, and things are going really well. But I think the big highlight for me is to see all the fans that get to go through my classes and work hands-on with all my guys, and of course take pictures and shake everybody's hand. I mean, we wouldn't be where we are without the enthusiasts, so everybody in South Africa and everybody around the world, keep on doing what you're doing to keep growing this industry big.
Happened in Vegas didn't stay in Vegas, and with new rodding enthusiasm, Riaan took his last stroll down the strip. But the workshop boys didn't wait in suspense when the suspension awaits.
We use a base plate on the center portion. We attach that to an oblong tubing front and back, gusset them for strength, and that whole section we use and attach to the chassis, high up in the car as possible.
These tubes form the subframe, which will determine the height of the rear suspension. This 12-foot operation is very precise and is crucial for accurate wheel alignment. And of course, the stance of the car.
We want as low as possible. So we've got to check that before we weld everything up. Okay, drop it down. You need to see the ride height of the vehicle.
Etienne is happy with the profile and is spot welding the suspension to the subframe.
From here, we go to the front because this is where we want the back. We need to cut the front suspension to drop it to get to the stance we wanted.
Etienne and his team performed a complicated C-section where they lifted the front suspension into the chassis to drop the front lower down. Ready for the grease and grime, Riaan returns to Street Rod Factory. Wow, it looks good. You can almost fit a jet engine on this suspension. Not only must the suspension be trial fitted before sandblasting, but the engine and the gearbox as well.
And we've got to see, does it fit in, does the gearbox fit in, does the distributor cap is not against this wall in the back here. And that's why we are just fitting in it. So you've got to take time, see where the bracket's going to be, because if we send this away to the sandblaster now, we don't want to come back and then got to cut again. Do we actually build engine brackets to fit in here?
Yeah, we manufacture the brackets from the chassis to the rubber mounting.
When building a car like this, there's a lot of secrets. And that's why we are using Etienne from Street Rod's factory, because he's an expert doing this for years and years. And I know a lot of you guys at home are going to try to build your own cars, and you also got questions. If you need those questions to be answered, you can always go to our website, you can go to our Facebook, and you can post those questions, and we will help you. If your engine is not level, what could happen to the engine?
The oil doesn't run back to the sump.
Okay.
That's why you'll see once we've got the engine level, the tappet covers life 4 degrees backwards.
Okay.
The head's everything, so the oil runs back to the sump.
All right.
Secondly, if your carburetor is on, the front bulb is going to run lean, back bulb is going to flood.
So this is fine.
That's fine.
Let's get the suspension out.
Cool.
Another trick is to have a magnet. That's a little magnet. So what it does, it actually sticks to the body. And you can see this is metal. It stays there. And where there's no power, you can see there, and you can hear, there's a lot of putty here. So you can use a magnet or just a peg to knock it to find all the putty and stuff, and then you take all that excess putty off. So there's a big piece here.
With auto assist on speed dial, getting the car to TRD sandblasters is no problem at all.
Street Rods Africa. Street Rods Africa.
Today we are visiting TRD sandblasting, and we drove miles to get here. What is sandblasting? Now sandblasting is like sandpapering your car, or take a grinder and grind your car, but we don't have the time to take sandpaper or a grinder. It will take us years to sand that car and get all the grub and the paint and the grease off that car. So what sandblasting is actually a lot of sand under pressure with a nozzle, and they take the paint and grub off that body. And it takes about 2 days, and the car's perfect for spray painting. So let's go and see what they do. Here's my Chevy. I wonder where's Patrick. Now the equipment that one uses for sandblasting is the following. It's one thick rubber pipe. This is connected to the sand itself, and with pressure it's been pushed through this pipe through a nozzle. Now the nozzle is also very important. You'll see in the inside there's an 8mm tungsten pipe in the inside. Now you can't use ordinary metal because the sand will take everything away there. On the outside, a rubber cover, so because this gets very warm and you don't want to burn your hands or anything. Now where they use this is very important that you can't have it too near the body because this will actually blow a hole right through your body. So this is very specific where to use this nozzle at the right distance. And also the pressure that comes through here with the air, it's 5 bar per square inch. So it's a lot of pressure. They say if you take this nozzle and put it on your arm, it will take the skin and the meat away. So don't try that. The sand that we use, it's platinum slag. You can see it's a very coarse sand, and this actually takes all the paint off the body. Why we use this is because it's got no silica. Silica is very bad for the body when you inhale it. This is a lot of dust, and although you inhale it, it's not bad for the body. It's also very important, safety first. And you can see the guys putting all their gear on, so they don't have to inhale the sand that's there, and they also protect their body. Now the next thing that's very important, after sandblasting, you've got to take this car back as soon as possible, because if you leave it like this, it will start to rust again. So Etienne must get this car to put a layer of etch primer on it, and then we can start working on the body again.
In case you think I've gone totally insane, that was supposed to be a rendition of the James Bond theme music. And the car we're featuring today was actually an icon of a couple of James Bond movies in the 1980s. The first one was The Spy Who Loved Me, and the car turned into a submarine in that movie. And the next one was, well, this is for your eyes only. Well, the Lotus name needs no explanation. It's one of the most famous names in sports cars in the world today. And it has been that way since 1957 when Colin Chapman actually launched his first car, the Lotus 7. This car was initially going to be called the Kiwi, which goodness knows why they wanted to name the car after some sort of weird tropical fruit. But sanity prevailed and they decided to call it the Esprit. And that's quite fitting because every other Lotus has had a name with the letter E. This car was styled by Giorgetto Giugiaro of Ital Design, and he's since become the most famous car designer in the world. Typically Italian styling, even though it's for a British car, it was probably done that way to take on the likes of Ferrari's 308. Another interesting styling point is the fact that it's got this extension to the nose, to the sills and to the back, and that denotes the fact that this is a Series 3 model, which is actually the turbo as well. It's actually a very interesting engine in that it's a Lotus in-house built engine. I mean, in the early days Lotus used Ford motors and then they used Renault motors, so this is actually built by Lotus themselves. It's a slant 4. Initially in the Series 1 Esprit they had a 2 litre, they then went to a 2.2, and this is the 2.2 turbo. And basically the fresh air is sucked in through here. Over here it gets spooled up, pressurized by this exhaust-driven turbo over here. The fresh air is formed along here through into this plenum and into these side draft Delorto carburetors. The reason they used Delortos apparently is that the Weavers couldn't get the proper sealing. Because it's a blow-through system, you have to have a very tight seal to pressurize these carburetors. Very old tech actually, and in fact it has none of the modern engine management, digital, electronic ignition aids. So yeah, you have to get the tuning spot on for this car to go very nicely. This gear change has all the accuracy of stirring a spoon through peanut butter. It really is quite awful, and it's sort of notchy and sticky and vague all at the same time, which is quite an achievement. This Esprit Turbo's almost got like a 50s brothel-like interior. I mean, it's all this crushed leather kind of stretched all over everything in this rather alluring shade of red. But quite seriously, it's also got a very modern instrument binnacle, which I think would amuse me if I owned this car. Like, it's really space age, circa 1980 or so. must say, having driven these twisty bits here in the mountain areas, my perceptions of this Lotus Espirit have totally changed. Whereas before the steering was heavy, the gear change was like peanut butter. Now I'd say the gear change is like butter, and the steering, the quad just comes to life. And to use a James Bondism, I'm not really shaken, and I'm more than a little stirred.
Now, Tinus is the owner of TRD. Tinus, thank you so much for taking my car in and getting it sandblast. Hoe lank doen jy nou al sandblasting?
Ek het die passion gekry vir sandblasting in 96. Het ek my eerste pot gekoop. Ek het dit vir 'n ruk lank self gedoen.
Iemand soos ek wat nou jou kar hier vir jou bring, wat is die proses wat 'n mens deurgaan om gesandblast te kry?
Wat ons doen is as 'n kar uit 'n grale chassis, dan word die bak gesplit van die chassis af.
So ons maak hom hier nou los.
Dis reg, ja.
Okay.
Dan word hy nou afgetel, dan word die kar onder gesandblast. En om sodoende bepaal jy waar jou roeste goed op jou bakwerk is, die chassis, dieselfde, dan kan jy jou repairs so goed doen.
En dan begin die groot werk op
Dan
die
begin
kar.
die werk, ja.
So if you think Tinus can only do sandblasting, there's a big surprise. Now, if you think Tinus is only a sandblaster, you're completely wrong. He's actually a car enthusiast, and he had hundreds of cars. He builds them, he rebuilds them, and he drives them. Tinus, hoeveel karre het jy nou al reggemaak en gery?
Wel, na my eerste 3 jaar vakleerlingskap het ek al 400 karre gehad.
400 karre. Ja. So. Hier is goed. Hoorie so, Tinus, hierdie, ek sien is 'n Cougar. Dis die eerste keer dat ek so 'n kar sien. Wat is dit die?
Dis 'n Ford het hulle vervaardig.
Ja.
Hy's maar basies maar op 'n Mustang onderstel gebaseer.
Ja.
Dis maar net die buitebakpanele wat verander het. Maar dit is eintlik maar 'n Mustang.
En het jy nou hierdie kar heeltemal oorgedoen soos mense
Ja, ek het die kar so gekoop by 'n ou oomie wat die kar vir ons eintlik bewaar het.
Ja, nee, hy's
Want die kar is baie mooi.
Jy het nog glad nie nog geverf of niks
Niks nie. Ek het die wiele verander en die breekstelsel nog goed reggemaak.
En verder is hy nog net so.
Net so, hy het nog sy driving skills op die sunvisor ook nog.
So. Dit lyk so vir my of jy eintlik 'n groot Mustang man is. As ek so terugkyk en sien ek daai Mustang wat daar agter staan. En hoe het hy gelyk toe by jou aangekom het?
Die kar was in 'n redelike mooi toestand gewees. Ek het net gekom en die kar gestrip, om heeltemal oorgeverf, die wiele opgesit, die kar gelouer, groter exhaust system opgesit, die upholstery oorgedoen.
Tinus, baie dankie. Dit was ongelooflik lekker om by jou te kuier vandag. Ek hoop hy Chevy kom nou mooi met die sandblasting. So, while the car's being sandblasted, I think Etienne's got some work for me to do. For me, back to the workshop. Patrick, enjoy the cars.
You know, in the world of street rod, there is nothing as legendary as the Deuce. Now, this is the car that I'm going to introduce to you for this episode.
Whatever do, I ain't gonna let nothing bring me down. It's all good with me, yeah. Whatever do.
You're probably wondering, why am I not wearing the bling? Because the Deuce is wearing the bling. And the man behind this is none other than a boer with a vision and a plan.
It's okay, ain't no thing. It's alright now, yeah. I got time.
Can you believe that he can put all this bling on this car? I want you to meet this wonderful Afrikaner boykie. Hey, a boer maak 'n plan. Now he's made one. Keith, kom eens op.
Even if you say the ship is sinking, I don't mind. It's a beautiful day for a swim. Whatever do, I ain't gonna let nothing bring me down. It's all good.
Now that I found you, my man, tell me about this. I see you fitted a nice microwave oven on this baby. What is it all about?
Well, this is definitely not a microwave oven.
What?
But let me just give you from the ground up. What it is a 350 cubic inch Chevy V8,
Yeah.
fitted with a supercharger. 2 4-barrel carbs, and what you call the microwave oven is the air scoop into the carburetor.
And how much horsepower is on this thing with all these fancy?
Between 400 and 500. We haven't put it on a dyno yet. That'll still happen. But certainly in the region of 370 kilowatt in metric terms. Yeah.
Now, the history of the Deuce.
Well, the Deuce was made 1 year only. It was made in 1932, and 2 being what they use in the card games in USA called Deuce, and that's why this name came. When they made the Deuce, they brought out the first V8. It was made in 1932. So that was the real hot rodding story started from this car, and the 32 really is probably the most sought after street rod in the whole world. We brought this original body in from the USA as well, and the body itself has been, molds have been taken off, so we're totally independent from the USA. We can make these cars totally in-house.
How much of the original features of the car, as it stands now, the Deuce stands, have you retained?
We've retained the front grille shell and the grille itself. That's the quintessential design of the 32. That everybody looks for. And then the body shape has remained the same. This is what they call a 3-window coupe. And this coupe has been chopped a certain amount to lower the roof line to give it a bit more sleeker look. Other than that, the doors are still suicide style. Suicide style means having hinges at the back, and if they open, you're committing suicide, really. I think that's where it came from. So don't open them while it's driving, okay?
How much of this car represents you?
My job is not a mechanic or anything like this. This started off as a hobby of mine, and now we're building 32s. But the passion comes from, I think, the 1960s when it first bit me, and that passion has gone through my whole building of this particular company and the products that come out of it.
You know what? I want to ride your passion.
You want to ride my passion?
I want to feel your passion.
Well,
now,
here you go. You can try.
Give me the keys.
There you go.
I'm going to take your passion to the ghetto now.
You're going to take it
all
to the ghetto.
All the girls in the township are going to be going,
well,
wow.
There's no room for girls in here.
Well, okay. You coming with me.
Yeah.
Today we're looking at a 32 Ford Coupe, one of the most iconic rods of all time. The 32, 33 was made popular by guys like ZZ Top, who actually used it in one of their albums. Also, Martin Sheen did a movie with it called The California Kid. We're here at Western Street Rods looking at the car that Keith Potgieter did. Phenomenal. Attention to detail, and really shows the quality of rodding in South Africa. This is an old car meeting new technology. Upgraded suspension, upgraded motor. Basically, it's like driving a brand new car. What we have here is an independent suspension, which is modern on the 32 Ford. Now, the old suspensions, which was an I-beam, worked where the one wheel lifted, the other wheel would lift as well. What Keith has done with this suspension is making it independent, where the one wheel can move up and down and won't affect the other wheel at all, which gives you a much smoother ride and a cleaner and safer ride than the original. Once again, new technology, old cars. To date, GM has produced over 95 million small block Chevys since 1955. So parts are not an issue at this stage. This one, however, is running 2 4-barrel Edelbrock carburetors. Now, all this horsepower has to go somewhere. So let's go have a look at the back. What we have here is an independent rear suspension from a Jaguar. Sorry guys, Jag lovers, but they made a very good suspension, so we take them. The shocks work independently, so whatever bounces on the one wheel doesn't affect the other one. Also gives a nicer, smoother ride for the car. Once again, safety is key. Something I really have to focus on in this car is Keith's attention to detail. How the exhaust mountings, everything was made. Detail on this car has been key. It's actually a sorry that the body covers all the work that's been done on here, which most people will never see. Oh, this is nice. So inside, once again, you keep the same theme going through. This car's running basically everything that it needs. It's no fancy stuff or anything. Dolphin gauges, not a lot of chrome, miles per hour, kilometers per hour, you can figure it out yourself. Low car shifter, follows through with the chrome inside the car. Banjo steering, because it looks like the old banjos that the guys used to play, and column shift. And then of course you need a little bit of technology inside, so